Hi BookTube and welcome to a new video. This is a tag. I was tagged by Brian of Bookish. This is the An Accomplished Woman book tag. Am I a good Georgian society lady? Based on apparently a conversation between Mr. Darcy and Caroline somebody or other from a Jane Austen novel. So I'm not quite sure I'm the target audience for the book or this tag, but let's give it a go. So these are supposedly attributes that make up the perfect, or at least the decent, Georgian lady. 1. Music. A favourite literary musician. Can be fictional character or a real person, but appears in a fiction book. Well, it's only fleeting appearances, but he's such an obscure musician that I was dead impressed that he appeared. So it's Slumberland by Paul Beatty, which is mainly set in Berlin. Just after the wall has come down, and the main character there bumps into I'm sure to say Neubauten's lead singer Blixer Bargeld and his Japanese girlfriend. I don't know if Blixer has a Japanese girlfriend, and Blixer doesn't do anything in the book other than sort of be spotted across the road a couple of times by this character. But as I say, it's such an obscure sort of musical reference to put in a book. He is one of my favourite musicians, so yeah, definitely brownie points to Paul Beatty in what is not a very good book. 2. Singing, a poetry recommendation. I struggle with this because I don't read a lot of poetry, and what I do is quite gritty, so it's not very uplifting really. So I did particularly like Rupture by Clayton Eshelman, which is inspired by the sort of prehistoric cave paintings in France that Eshelman managed to get down to have a look at firsthand. And there's some interesting stuff in his poetry in that book. Would I recommend it? Not, I don't think in a sort of, as I say, uplifting way. 3. Drawing, a beautiful cover. I didn't prepare for this. Hang on a second. So, in answer to the question, a beautiful cover. This is my protest because I never buy books as cover buys, and to me this is an ideal cover. One that just has an aesthetic, but it has no imagery. As all Fitzcarraldo books are like that. 4. Dancing, a book with a lively plot. Well, I don't read books for plot, so I'm struggling to sort of process this. And the question of a lively plot, I mean, I suppose sort of fast-moving action thrillers or mysteries would be lively, even though there's probably somebody who dies at the end of it, so they're not lively. Yeah, I can't really answer that question. 5. Modern languages, a favourite translated fiction. Well, 2 books by Lauren Binet, HHHH and The Seventh Function of Language. I have just read his new book, which is called Civilizations, which is hugely disappointing, I have to say. 6. Something in Her Air and Manner of Walking, a book with a strong atmosphere. Again, atmosphere. It's not really something that sort of rates with me in books. Again, I can imagine if your genre were doing supernatural or horror, something with sort of suspense in it, then yeah, I get it. But those aren't the type of books I read. No, sorry, I got nothing for that either. The tone of her voice, her address and expressions, a book with beautiful writing. The Lost Children Archive by Valeria Luiselli, that comes to mind. Now, I suppose there's 2 types of beautiful writing. There's beautiful writing as in words that form sentences, but I think there's also beautiful writing in that it conveys ideas without sort of spoon-feeding you those ideas. So, for example, we can all remember, except me because I have a terrible memory, we can all remember and quote sentences that have really sort of struck us as beautiful writing. But the concept of beautiful writing where ideas are effortlessly sort of transfused into your brain without even being aware that that's what was happening, I regard that as equally beautiful as well. hence Valeria Luiselli. 8. Improvement to her mind by extensive reading. Your next read. I'm not actually sure what my next read is going to be. I'm just about finishing this, Big Girl Small Town, which has really dragged on. I've just also finished Flea by Evan Dara. I do have another Evan Dara book to read called The Easy Chain, but I find it quite difficult moving on from one book by an author to another book by the same author, so that won't be my next one. I do have a sort of collection of Cesar Vallejo poetry, which I bought it on Kindle because it was so much cheaper as an ebook rather than in print. And I find it very difficult to read because my Kindle is mounted on my laptop. So I found it quite hard to actually get down and read it. But I've had it for over a year and I would like to actually read it. Also, the strange thing is, before BookTube, I never really read any poetry, but I've seen such great recommendations. I've become more alert for poetry, and so far this year I've read one poetry collection every month, and the Vallejo would keep that record going, so 4 collections in 4 months, which I've never done in my life. So I'm tempted to keep that going throughout the year. Whether I will be able to or not, I don't know. I'm waiting on a review from Courtney Ferreter of an interesting sounding African American poetry collection that she hauled or TBR'd. I think she's intending to read it this month in April, so he may be my next one for May if Courtney gives him the thumbs up. 8. Improvement of her mind by... No, I've done that one. 9. Would you be considered accomplished by Caroline Bingley and Mr. Darcy standards? Okay, so let's go back to the accomplishments and skills. 1. Music. No, I'm tone deaf. 2. Singing. C above. I can't sing in tune. Can't hold a note. 3. Drawing. I can't even draw stickmen. 4. Dancing. No, not really. I mean, I like dancing. I've modelled my style on Ian Curtis's. Look it up on YouTube. Modern languages. No, I do know 2 dead languages. I say I know. I learned 2 dead languages. I don't know if that's any good. I mean, I can get by in French, but no, I wouldn't say I had an accomplishment in modern languages. And as I'm forever saying, I bitterly regret that I never learned to speak German. The tone of... No, something in her air and manner of walking. I used to have a really bad method of walking in that I would wear down one side of the soles of my shoes because I obviously walked so badly. That doesn't seem to happen to me anymore, so I don't know if I've sort of corrected that. I haven't consciously gone about correcting it. Something in her air. When I walk outside, it's like head down, don't disturb me, don't mess with me, don't interact with me at all. So no, probably not in my air. The tone of her voice, her address and expressions. No, not really. I have been told I have a North London accent. I can't hear it myself, but other people have. I couldn't tell the difference between a North Londoner and a South Londoner just by their accent. I could tell it by the nonsense that South Londoners spew, but no, not by accent alone. And expressions, do you mean facial expressions or do you mean verbal expressions? That's probably one of the few things I score in. 8. Improvement of her mind about extensive reading. Yes, I do that. Although it's extensive reading within fairly narrow parameters. The experimental. So all in all, I would not be considered accomplished, but I don't know whether that means I'm not an accomplished woman or just I wouldn't be an accomplished Georgian. Georgian the time period, not Georgian as in someone from the US state or from the former Russian Republic. Because I think those are very particular to a, I wonder what the equivalent of accomplishments for Georgian men were. Because I suspect I wouldn't match up to those either, which means that I definitely wouldn't match up to be an accomplished Georgian. Now, whether that was also gendered or not, I don't know, as I say, because I don't know what what Georgian men were doing. So big thanks to Brian, who I think probably had an evil glint that he was suppressing when he tagged me on this. I am going to tag Sina at Beating Around the Books. I am going to tag Marilyn Mendoza, and one more. Who should I tag? Yeah, let's tag Silja over in Norway. Go for it, Silja. Okay, thanks, Brian. Till next time.